distilled lavender, we test it many different ways. We do analytical testing of our essential oils. You can see the specific tests here. These include things like GCMS and LCMS, very sophisticated scientific methods that tell us exactly what the fingerprint of that oil is to the molecular level. We then can do an organoleptic evaluation. Because we have been sourcing oils for the longest time, we now know what essential oils should look like and smell like, and before they get tested, we can determine whether we even want to consider that oil for purchase. We also look at physical constants of an oil. We'll look at its optical rotation to measure, to make sure that it's not contaminated. We go to these extreme lengths because the industry, the fragrance industry, contaminates and adulterates their oils so often that if we don't do this with every single batch, you can't trust that what is in the bottle is an essential oil. Thank you. This is a GCMS report for lavender. Every single peak on this report is known, understood, numbered, and quantified. We know exactly how much linalool acetate, lavendula acetate should be in lavender, and all the way down to the smallest chemical compound. We go to all of this trouble so that you can have pure and consistent oils. Others, though, other essential oil companies are very fond of saying that they're just like us. In fact, on this screen is one company's essential oils. I will not name them because that's not what we do here. But this company in the United States commonly markets their oils as just like doTERRA, but cheaper. We bought all of their oils. We examined every single one of them in the lab. These are some of the examples of the kinds of adulterations that we found within their oils by doing the tests that we do on our oils. You cannot trust these oils. Fully 60% of the oils from this company were highly adulterated and of poor quality. But you do not have to take our word for it. This is an article published, and this is the greatest example for you to share with your friends. So if you want to take a picture of this, go right ahead. You can look this article up on PubMed and find it on the internet. This article right here documents that birch essential oil does not exist in the marketplace today except from doTERRA. Now, I'm going to have a little fun with you. I know you're proud that we market a pure essential oil, and you clapped, but that ticks me off. There are millions of people buying birch essential oil that aren't getting birch essential oil. This article in a peer-reviewed, published scientific journal shows that no birch sold in the marketplace today contains any birch at all. It was all wintergreen or organically synthesized from aspirin. Wow. Expired lots of aspirin, most likely. That means that people all over the world think they are using birch essential oil, but it's either wintergreen or it's organically synthesized aspirin. They put it in a bottle called birch, and they lie to their customers so that they can make money. This makes me frustrated, disappointed. Our industry needs to get better. We must lead the way. And the only way we can lead the way is by helping people to understand how significant this problem is. We are not a fragrance company. We are an essential oil company. Now, thank you. Now let's talk for a moment about consistency. And I'm going to explain what I mean. Last year, I introduced this topic to you. Today, I'm going to share with you data that has not been shared in the United States yet. You're the first group to see this. And I want you to feel and understand this, because if you do, you will feel good. Are you ready? Many of you remember this graph from convention about lavender, where I showed you 6 years worth of production. This is every batch of lavender, and each bar on this graph represents the percentage of linalool in that particular batch. There is only a 1.5% deviation or standard deviation between batches. That means that linalool, which is one of the main chemical compounds in lavender, varies by 1.5% year to year, batch to batch, bottle to bottle, and drop to drop. You can rely on that kind of consistency every day from doTERRA. I then showed you last year this data for other essential oils, and I could show you this kind of data for every essential oil that doTERRA produces. To take you one step further in understanding how important it is to have consistent chemistry in the bottle, I want to talk to you now about the International Standard Organization, or ISO. The International Standard Organization sets the standards for essential oils for the whole industry. This is the standard for lavender from the ISO. Maybe you notice that it says that linalool can vary 20 to 45%. I'm pausing right now for dramatic effect. 20 to 45%. That is ridiculous. You can drive a truck through that. That is not a standard that helps you. That is a standard that helps the fragrance industry. It's a standard that allows them to buy lavender that is wildly different. More than 50% or 100% difference. In one drop of oil, you could have 20% linalool or 40% linalool and still call it a pure, high-quality lavender. Wow. Can you imagine if you were at home with your daughter who is so anxious, frustrated, and been hurt by her friends at school, and she came home needing you to calm her down, and you took some lavender out and you did an aroma touch technique on her hand to calm her down? Could you imagine if the chemistry varied by 100%? 20 to 40%. You put 3 drops in her hand one time and it works. 3 drops another time and it won't work. You need to understand how important this chemistry is, because it's what helps your family and helps you. What are our consistency numbers? These are the main chemical compounds in lavender. They make up over 2/3 of lavender. Look at those numbers. You should be proud of those. I am proud of those. But now I want to show you what we call next generation consistency data. So instead of just talking about linalool like I did last year, this is every chemical compound in lavender, and its standard deviation is that far right-hand column. Look up at the very top of that column. What does it say for linalool? 1.15%. That is unheard of in our industry. When we say that we have the most pure, when we say that we have the most consistent, when we say that we have the best essential oils, that's what we mean. That's how you prove it. doTERRA lavender is the gold standard lavender against which the whole world must measure itself. And this data that I've showed with you for lavender, I could show you for bergamot, peppermint, cinnamon. I could show you for them all. We have it all. This data helps you explain to somebody why they need to choose doTERRA. Because if they cannot choose doTERRA, what happens on the other side of the equation? They cannot have safety and they cannot have efficacy. In the pharmaceutical industry, this is a quote from an article that describes the standards that the pharmaceutical or drug industry holds itself to. If you were to buy 100 milligrams of a drug, the pharmaceutical industry is allowed 5% deviation on either side of that number. That means that within every tablet, you could have anywhere between 105 and 95 milligrams of that drug. doTERRA exceeds that. Our lavender quality standard is far superior to the pharmaceutical industry standard for drugs. We vary by 1%. For example, if we had 100 milligrams of lavender, our variation would be 101 or 99. Not 105 and 95. Do you understand how important that is? As a medical doctor, I want to make sure that when I recommend something to be used, that it will work the same way every time. In the past, in our industry, we felt that this type of consistency was impossible. It's not impossible. When you source pure essential oils, bringing them together through a co-impact sourcing model, from 5-acre farms or 50-acre farms, you bring them together, blend them together, you reduce variation, and that kind of standard is the result. Why is that consistency important? Because without purity and consistency, you cannot dose correctly. You cannot use oils safely. You cannot evaluate their efficacy, and you cannot have reproducible results. So what about doTERRA's safety for lavender in this example that I'm using, taking lavender all the way through that equation? doTERRA has shipped over 13.2 million bottles of lavender globally. And in that time, we have recorded 97 adverse events. That is a 0.000734% chance of having an adverse event using lavender. Lavender is safe, lavender is effective, and you can trust it when it comes from doTERRA. Efficacy. Let me take you through the efficacy side of this story by showing you some Serenity data. You might remember this from last convention and from previously in a webinar that Dr. Nicole Stevens and I did. When we look in a human clinical trial at how the Serenity sleep system, using epigenetics, turns back our biological system's clocks, we can see that our age, our biological age, decreases when we sleep and get more restorative sleep. Look at the brain age clock. 7 years turned back in a 6-week trial. This makes perfect sense though when you think about it. When we sleep, our bodies regenerate, our brain regenerates. All the work done by the neurons in our brain, all the toxins and byproducts created by a day of living, they get taken care of when we sleep in stage 3. Serenity System increases our sleep, our restorative sleep, and our epigenetic clocks, measured by taking blood at the beginning of the trial and at the end, turned backwards. Essentially what this says is we get younger when we sleep better with serenity. These are the enhanced claims that you can make because of these epigenetics trials. These kinds of trials can only be done when you have a lavender that is so consistent that it will be trusted batch to batch. These results you can have for yourself because you know that every bottle of lavender will have the same chemistry. But folks, it's not just lavender. These advantages that I've discussed are only afforded to those who choose doTERRA. We need you, I need you, to help the world understand these facts. If you will use this equation, purity plus consistency equals safety and efficacy. In your own way, you'll help people to choose doTERRA. doTERRA is a health and wellness company. We are so not a fragrance company. Thank you so much. I have loved being with you here in Europe. I look forward to seeing you again. Have a wonderful rest of the day.